I broke up with my abusive ex, so he stole my dog and I'm still haunted by it years later. I broke up with my boyfriend after I finally realized how toxic he had been to me. It was small things at first, like having me cook and clean and pay all of the bills because he'd guilt-trip me. Then it led to me not being able to hang out with my friends because he didn't want me to. It all led up to the day when he finally hit me, and I knew I had let everything go on for far too long. I broke up with him, and told him to move out immediately. We were living together in my apartment at the time. He didn't think I was serious at first, but eventually he agreed to leave, saying I would regret it. He invited a bunch of his friends over to help him pack, but instead of packing his stuff alone, they went through all of my things. They claimed they were checking to see if any of his stuff was in there, which was ridiculous as my underwear drawer clearly only had my things inside. They made a huge mess, throwing everything around. They threw random stuff into boxes or on the floor. I was kept distracted by having to watch over all of them, because a few times they had packed jewelry and photo books that were mine. I didn't trust any of them. I didn't know it, but my boyfriend was sneaking my dog out of the apartment while all of that was happening. When we were dating, I got a husky, as I love dogs, and finally felt financially stable enough to get one. My ex did literally nothing for that dog. I paid for all the vet bills, toys, food, everything. My ex never even took him for a walk unless he felt like spending time with me when I took the dog out. It took me a few minutes to even realize both of them had left the apartment, and when I did I went outside to look for them. My ex's car was gone, and my dog was nowhere in sight. I ran around the entire block just to make sure. I didn't realize how stupid of an idea that was, until I got back to my apartment. I found all of his friends had grabbed all of his stuff, and a bunch of mine and booked it. I immediately thought of my cat, and rushed around my apartment frantically looking for him. I burst into happy tears when I found him hiding in the closet, but my dog was gone. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't think. I had no idea what to do. Mid-tears I called my ex and he answered. I told him to bring my dog back right effing now or I'd call the police. He told me it was his dog now, as I didn't deserve to own a dog after abandoning him so easily. He said I would eventually do it to the dog as well, since I so callously left him with nothing. I told him the dog wasn't going to go crazy one day and hit me like he did. He just laughed and told me I was overreacting. I warned him one more time I would call the cops, and he told me to go ahead. He explained how as soon as they would speak with him, he'd tell them of a huge stash of weed hidden somewhere in my apartment, somewhere I couldn't find it, as he had hidden it there a while ago and I never noticed. He continued to say he'd then call the apartment complex, to inform them I had a cat not on the lease, so I'd get kicked out. And lastly, if I still tried to make trouble, he would be back with his friends to visit me, that he would teach me how painful a real punch could be. He hung up on me and I just sat down on my floor and cried for like an hour. I called a friend and asked them to come over. They just told me I had already made my choice of who to trust a while ago, and they were no longer my friend. I moved out soon after, as I was terrified he would go through with his threat anyway just for the hell of it. I didn't want him to know where I lived. Around then was when I realized the full damage of what his friends had stolen. My high school yearbook, countless clothes, personal photos, and jewelry. But the most heartbreaking of all was a priceless letter from my deceased grandmother. I debated calling to ask about it, but I knew he would just threaten me, maybe even taunt me that he burned it. It has been 3 years now, and I still feel guilty about abandoning my dog to such a disgusting crazy person. I've debated calling him to ask about the dog for years, but was always afraid of his threat. I've rethought everything I could have done differently a million times. I've moved to another state, but I still get random panic attacks, thinking he'll hunt me down one day. I really hope he gave my dog up, and he was adopted by someone else. I really hope so.